Jin realized. Matthew then admitted, I don't think this method is effective. Maybe I should take some pictures or start sketching. Without seeing, I can't work properly. This feels like a waste of time. Jin frowned. He doesn't even realize I'm testing him. He said aloud, If you don't like my condition, we can stop here. Matthew quickly replied, No, I can't stop. I didn't mean I'd start sculpting you without knowing anything about you. He stepped closer, determined. Jin moved back slightly, removing his shirt. If you want what you're asking for, then give me what I want. Whether I become your model depends on your actions. Matthew whispered his name, moved closer, and touched him gently. You're teasing me, aren't you? Jin smirked. I can feel his excitement just from his touch. He asked, And if I say yes, what will you do? Matthew shook his head quickly. No, I just want to focus. He guided Jin toward the sofa, where Jin lay back, smoking calmly, while Matthew sat beside him, carefully studying and tracing his form. Matthew was focused entirely on his work, while Jin thought, his hands are large and rough, yet his touch feels delicate, almost like a massage. Not bad at all. Jin smiled. It seems you're enjoying this too. Matthew replied earnestly, Your physique is amazing. Your muscles aren't overly bulky, so every curve and shape is clearly defined. Jin chuckled. You sound like a butcher describing his meat. Matthew blushed. I'm just nervous, that's all. He asked Jin to turn slightly so he could continue his study. Jin teased, Didn't you say this was a waste of time? And now you're carefully checking every detail. Matthew answered, Well, you told me to touch you. Jin thought, Technically, I did say that, but we've wasted enough time already. What exactly are we doing here? He grew a little bored and asked, Do you sleep here in the studio? Yes, Matthew replied. Jin looked around. For a studio this size, the rent must be high. Matthew explained, I got this place through connections, so the rent is much cheaper than the market price. Jin asked Matthew, You don't have any family. How do you pay your tuition fees? Matthew replied, I received a scholarship. That's how I started making sculptures. But honestly, it's a boring story. Jin smirked. I doubt it could be more boring than you think. Why don't you tell me anyway? Matthew began. When I was young, I lived near the shore. One day, some children brought a rabbit there. They played with it happily. I learned to speak later than most kids, so I couldn't ask them if I could play too. When they grew bored, I finally got a chance to see the rabbit up close. But they didn't like me touching it, so they took it away. I sat there, sad, until someone came to me. He said, If you want something, don't give up so easily. Use all your strength to get it. That moment stayed with me. My desire to keep something precious like that rabbit is what led me to start sculpting. Jin chuckled. Well, that was indeed boring. I almost fell asleep. Then Jin's expression shifted. He touched the scars on his back and asked, These marks, they look like they mean something. Do they? Matthew had noticed them earlier while tracing Jin's form. It feels like something is written here, he said softly. Jin's face hardened. He tossed his cigarette aside and said firmly, Listen, I never told you that you could ask me about this. Even if these scars have meaning, it has nothing to do with you. I'll make this clear. You shouldn't take interest in them. I didn't agree to be your model because of your little art project. And another thing, yes, I agreed to model for you, but you're not special to me. He grabbed Matthew's shirt collar, pulling him close. That shouldn't be so hard to understand. Matthew, confused by his sudden change in tone, replied quietly, All right, I'll remember that. Jin nodded. Good, that's enough. Now maybe you should pay me for my modeling. If you don't want to, just say so. Instead of refusing, Matthew tried to help him, following Jin's guidance. Jin thought, He's terrible at this. I'll have to train him first. He began instructing Matthew carefully, and Matthew followed every word. Just as they started, Jin's phone rang. At first, he ignored it, trying to stay focused. But when it rang again and again, he grew irritated. He finally answered, snapping, What is it? On the other end, someone said, Sir, Madam Chairwoman wants you in her office immediately. She has something important to discuss. Jin replied coldly, I can't come now. Tell her I'll meet her tomorrow. He hung up without listening further, tossing the phone aside and tried to return to Matthew with a smile. But the phone rang again, His anger flared. "Stop calling me. I already said I can't come. What could be so urgent?" He answered furiously. "Why are you still calling me?" Secretary Jung's voice came through. "Sir, something has gone wrong. You must understand, the longer you delay, the angrier Madam Chairwoman will become." Jin shouted, "Secretary Jung, listen to me!" But before he could finish, she cut him off. "Fine, we'll meet later." She hung up. Jin roared in frustration, throwing his phone so hard that the screen shattered. He stormed off, angrily pulling on his clothes. "They didn't even let me finish what I was doing." Matthew removed the tie from his eyes and stood up. "Are you leaving?" "Yes," Jin replied curtly. Matthew lowered his gaze and said softly, "I'm sorry." Matthew lowered his gaze and apologized softly. Jin looked at him curiously. "Why are you apologizing?" Matthew replied sadly, "Because I couldn't do anything properly. But please remember, I learn quickly. Next time, I'll try to do even better." Hearing this, a smile spread across Jin's face. It's rare to see such humble determination these days, he thought. I can't help but laugh at his sincerity. Matthew handed Jin the tie back, but Jin pushed it into Matthew's hands instead. "Keep it. Every Friday we'll meet here at your studio. Next time I won't accept excuses about it being your first time. So make sure you practice well." With that, Jin left abruptly. Matthew stood by the door, watching him go. He didn't feel good about Jin leaving so suddenly. For a long while he just stared at the tie in his hand, lost in thought. The next day, Matthew was at college, standing in his professor's office. The professor was excited. "It's wonderful to hear you found your model. Now you just need to focus on your work. Stop wasting time on those silly part-time jobs. And if you need money, don't hesitate to ask me." He placed a reassuring hand on Matthew's shoulder. Matthew didn't like the gesture. Inwardly, he thought, "This day feels just like any other. I try to avoid contact with people as much as possible. But sometimes, to prevent things from getting worse, I have to endure it." After speaking with the professor, Matthew left the office. As he opened the door, another student appeared. "Well, look who it is. You're here again. Ever since I joined this school, I've barely had a chance to talk to the professor. But you act like his office is your home." The student was jealous of the professor's attention toward Matthew. He pressed further. "So, what did you and the professor talk about?" Matthew ignored him and walked away. The student followed, asking, "Did he tell you what's coming in the theory exam? Or promise to take you to some famous gallery?" Matthew stayed silent. Irritated, the student grabbed his shoulder. "Hey, why are you ignoring me? I'm asking what you discussed with the professor." Matthew stopped, thinking, this is exactly the kind of meaningless conversation I try to avoid every day. The student bumped into him as he halted. Matthew turned calmly. "Ryan, tell me, what exactly do you want to ask?" Ryan shamelessly repeated, "I've been asking all along. Why does the professor only have one-on-one discussions with you? It's obvious you're his favorite." Matthew replied evenly, "I only told him that I found my model." Ryan laughed mockingly. "Really? You didn't have a model until now? Let me guess, it's because you're boring, isn't it?" Matthew thought, "Are you really this curious about it?" Ryan added, "If you ever need money, let me know. I can get you a job that pays well. It's easy. You just deliver things and collect the payment." Matthew shook his head. "No, I'm fine. I need to focus on my work, so I'm leaving." His attitude angered Ryan. "Hey, whatever you say, you're still a rude bastard. Don't come crying to me when you need money." Matthew ignored him completely and walked away. "I don't want to spend time with others, nor do I want them to talk to me. People always act like they're doing me a favor, and when they don't get the response they expect, they lash out. Their interactions have always been one-sided." Matthew thought to himself, "I've never been interested in anyone else. But he's different. Whenever I'm with him, I feel him deeply. I lose awareness of myself, almost as if I'm not in control. He's exactly the image I've always imagined. My ideal." As these thoughts filled his mind, Matthew worked on his sculpture. He recreated Jin's form from memory, recalling every detail he had sensed. Each line of Jin's body seemed perfectly shaped, as though designed with great care. His face was sharp and smooth, like it had been carved with precision. Matthew imagined the coolness of Jin's skin, the firmness of the muscles beneath, and the way everything seemed to fit perfectly under his hands. Blushing, he admitted to himself, "Whenever I feel him, it never feels like enough. I want to know him more, to capture him completely." Holding Jin's tie, Matthew thought, "I may never meet someone this perfect again." The scene then shifts to the next Friday. Jin was leaving his company earlier than usual. His subordinates bowed respectfully. "Boss, we'll wait for you in the car." Jin waved them off. "No, go home. Or do you want me to lecture you again about that phone incident?" Startled, they quickly replied, "Yes, boss. We'll leave now." As Jin walked away, he thought, "How did I end up like this? It makes no sense. I can't believe I'm leaving work early on a Friday just to meet him." When he reached the elevator, he found it crowded with bodyguards. Their leader stepped forward. "Ah, this must be Director Jin." Jin frowned. "And what is the executive director of bombing construction doing here? Why bring so many guards into another company's building?" The man smiled smoothly. "Isn't it obvious? I'm in enemy territory, so I have to follow formalities. After all, with them here, you won't have to face me directly. Madam Chairwoman invited me, so technically I'm here by her request." Jin was taken aback. "Why would Madam Chairwoman invite you?" The man replied calmly, "She may be particular, but she cares about me. Even if we're rivals, we've known each other for so long that we're practically family." Jin's eyes narrowed. "Family? You betrayed that family once already. Do you plan to betray it again?" The man chuckled. "Your aura is still the same as before. But let's stop talking about the past. I can see you were invited here too, though you don't know the reason yet. Am I right?" He stepped closer, placing a hand on Jin's shoulder. "Madam Chairwoman seems ready to explode. It looks like she still doesn't trust you. Even the loyalty symbol you carved into your back hasn't convinced her. You should try harder to earn her trust. After all, someone who betrayed the company once can't be believed so easily." With that, he turned to leave. "Anyway, I'll be going now. But make sure you do your job well. Oh, and our boss said—" The man smirked as he spoke to Jin. "If you want to meet my boss, you should. If I'm not mistaken, you know him already. He's the one who first brought you into this company. And later, you became completely obsessed with him." Jin had been listening like a statue, showing no reaction. But the moment those words were spoken, his composure shattered. He grabbed the man's face and slammed him against the wall in fury. Blood trickled from the man's nose and mouth. He hadn't expected Jin to react with such rage. Jin leaned in close, his voice sharp. "Why did you stop talking? Continue what you were saying." The tension was thick. What kind of relationship exists between Jin and that man's boss? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Jin's past was far from simple. Slowly, piece by piece, the story would reveal the shadows of his history. For now, the chapter closes here,